Good Monday makers. It's time for another community build roundup. And as always, we're going to be checking out some really clever projects from the community that are made with EMT conduit, maker pipe fittings, and some other pieces of hardware and just really clever techniques from the community. Let's jump right in and check them out. Our first project this week is this yard cart conversion from Andrew. So he already had this yard cart, as you can see, just to, haul leaves and different things around maybe a garden or to the curb with trash, all kinds of different reasons you might use this. But he wanted to convert it to a cart that he could use, as you can see here, on the sand to take gear to his boat. And these wheels here will just, go down into the sand and it won't really be useful because it'll just be buried right away. So he built a frame and attached it to the bottom of the cart, and he used maker pipe fittings here and 3/4 inch EMT conduit. And then he used some of these beach wheels from a company called Wheel Ease, as you can see there. It looks like they make high quality, made in the USA wheels, which is really cool. And they're made specifically for soft sand and for, beach sand. And, I would imagine, I think it does well on rocks and everything else too. They're just inflatable wheels, but supposed to be pretty durable from what I understand. But basically, he just used the technique that we've talked about on the channel a lot, where basically you run some kind of through axle through the piece of conduit, and then you just cap it off on both sides after you put washers and then the wheels on each side, and then I think he drilled a hole through it and added a pin. Yeah, there you go. He's got a pin on there, and I think he said he used 5/8 inch bar stock, just an aluminum smooth rod that he had on hand, which is a good idea. If you've got something like that, go ahead and use it and make it, take advantage of stuff you've already got. So that's great, and it's very similar to the kayak cart as we've seen in the past, where basically it's kind of a triangular design with 90-degree connectors, and that's what holds the axle in place. And then it just has the wheels attached, as we talked about. Then he just secured this framework to the bottom of the yard cart using 2-hole straps, and it's really cool. And there you can see it's working out great. He's able to take stuff to his boat. So really awesome job, Andrew. Thanks so much for sharing this build. Really great to see. Next up is a camper bed slider from Rebecca. And this is really cool because a while back we did a build video where I actually made a slider bed for my Astro van, or my old Astro van. I don't have it anymore, unfortunately. But I made a slider bed just like this, and she kind of adapted it to her camper setup and even, added some new things to it, but kind of kept the overall same idea and same design, where basically there's a frame with 1-inch EMT conduit, and that's the main bed frame. And then she used 180-degree connectors oriented sideways, and then there's a 3/4 inch slider, as you can see, that just slides in and out of the 180-degree connectors, and inside of the 3/4 inch conduit rest inside of the 1-inch conduit, and that's how it slides in and out. And it's really cool to see somebody get inspiration from a project that we shared. And I'll be sure to link that build video that we did down below if you want to check it out and see more details on how we created it. But it's really cool that she recreated it, and really awesome job, Rebecca. Thanks so much for sending this in. Next up is Ed's batting cage, and this is a 10-foot by 10-foot by 50-foot batting cage, which is really cool, really massive, as you can see. And it's very similar to the batting cages that we've seen in the past. It's basically just a big rectangle, and it looks like Ed accomplished that using 90-degree connectors in the corners, and then he used, I think, 4-way connectors every 10 feet, basically, because I think it's 10, 10, 10. Yeah, so it's 50 foot separated by 10-foot sections, and then you use 4-way connectors. You didn't have to do any cutting. I think you just got a bunch of 10-foot sticks and just connected them together, which is nice. Just kind of eliminate the cutting step altogether. And then he added some pipe insulation to the frame, which is a common technique that we see with batting cages. Just a good idea to keep the baseballs from ricocheting or being really loud, because they can hit the pipe insulation and the foam, and it kind of keeps it from pinging or having a really loud sound or just bouncing all over the place. And then he's got some netting on the outside of the frame, and I like here how he's got the brace just a little bit higher up than the rest of them, so it's easy to get in and out of the batting cage, and then you can just drop the net down, and got a great place to do some batting practice. So really cool. Thanks so much, Ed, for sharing that. Really appreciate it. Next up is a bird feeder stand from Timothy, and this is really interesting because He said that he just hammered a piece of rebar into the ground, and I'm surprised that it's holding up so well with just a single piece of rebar. I don't know if it's got concrete down there or if he added some kind of base to it, but he's got it looks like a decent amount of weight up here with all the conduit and all the bird feeders. So I'm curious to see how it holds up with just a single rebar stake. But that is a really good technique for securing vertical posts in the ground outside. Basically, you just get a rebar stake from Home Depot or Lowe's. You hammer that into the ground, and then you can slide conduit over top of it. And I'll be sure to link the one that we like to use down below. And they have different lengths. And I would imagine for something like this, you want one that goes really deep into the ground and still has enough above ground that you can slide the vertical over it. But basically, just a 3/4 inch EMT stick, just going straight up. And then you use 90-degree connectors to add different kind of shelves or arms sticking off of the vertical post, as you can see here, and he just kind of oriented them in different ways, just to kind of give it a cool look and kind of separate where everything is hanging so they don't bump into each other. And he's just got a few different bird feeders. He's got the squirrel-proof kind of dome there to keep the squirrels from climbing up the pole. Really good bird feeder stand, nice and simple, but really cool nonetheless, and has some good design techniques in it that we can pull inspiration from. And yeah, I'm curious to see how well it holds up with just that single rebar stake, but seems to be doing well so far. So thanks so much for sharing this, Timothy. Really great to see. Next up is this ham Radio Shack from Cliff. And this is really cool. And I think it's funny that they're called Radio Shacks. And apparently this is common in the ham radio kind of hobby or scene, that they call these Radio Shacks, which is cool. But basically, you can see here, it looks like he had a table already in place, and you can imagine all of this hardware and all of this equipment being on top of this desk. It's going to be cluttered and not organized and kind of hard to use. So basically, you just use 3/4 inch EMT conduit and various fittings to make a frame that sits on top of the table here. And I think it's even secured to the ceiling using flanges. Maybe not. I can't really tell. The angle of the photo, it looks like it's touching the ceiling, but I don't think it is if you look back here. But he's just got the flanges at the top and the bottom just to have a base, and that might be secured to the tabletop. I imagine with the weight of everything on there, you probably don't have to worry too much about it, but just for added security, you could, screw the flanges into the table. But basically just added, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shelves down low for different equipment, as you can see here. And then up top, he's even got some more storage. And he just basically built the framework and added rectangles, looks like with T connectors, wherever he needed to add a shelf. And he's just got some wood on top of the frame and used one-hole straps to secure those in place. So really nice project, and a really great use of space just to get everything off the table and organized. And I bet it makes the hobby a lot more fun when you're able to actually use everything and have it organized. I know I love organization and storing things like this. It makes things a lot more enjoyable. So really cool, Cliff. Thanks so much for sharing that. Thanks everybody for posting your builds. If you want to see any of these in more detail, they'll be linked down below so you can check them out for yourself. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.